lovely sunny weekend here in New Jersey. Obviously a tough day for a lot of people around the world. We want to send our love, our best wishes, our prayers, obviously to everybody that was affected by what happened 20 years ago. So God bless y'all. On a much lighter note, of course, football season. Football is officially back. We had an amazing game Thursday night. The Buccaneers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Tampa Bay Bucs, the defending Super Bowl champions, edged out the Dallas Cowboys. Great freaking game. Just want to make a quick programming note. We have new press conferences up from Andy Reid and from Bruce Arians following the Bucs win over the Cowboys. But I want to hop on here real quick because in less than 24 hours, we'll be playing some real football. We'll be watching some real football. And there are a lot of potential storylines out there. So what I wanted to do was just throw out some of my bold predictions, some of my wild predictions, and you know what? Maybe a hot take or two. And what I'd love is for anybody that's watching this or listening to this to leave a comment below and tell me what your wild NFL prediction, your wild NFL hot take is. So let's go around the league here. So for this video, if you're watching on YouTube, I made the thumbnail Jalen Hurts. Photo I took of him at the NFL Combine. I've been a big Jalen Hurts fan for a long time. My wild prediction for the Philadelphia Eagles is that Jalen Hurts plays at a Pro Bowl level this season. I think that Jalen Hurts takes that next step, especially with Devontae Smith. The only thing that, well, not the only thing, but the main concern I have with the Philadelphia Eagles is their coaching staff. Nick Sirianni seems like a nice guy, talented guy, but to think that Eric Bieniemy, Brian Daboll were both out there. Robert Saleh, at the time, was out there. Leslie Frazier, who's pretty accomplished, was out there. And y'all chose Nick Sirianni. Not the best move on paper. Now, I still think it's a much better move than Urban Meyer. I still think it's a much better hire than some other guys. You know, Brandon Staley, no disrespect to him, but I didn't think that he earned a coaching spot after just one good year. Whatever the case may be, time will tell. But I do think Jalen Hurts will take that next step and be a Pro Bowl level quarterback this year. Whether or not he gets Pro Bowl level support around him, that remains to be seen. On the other side of things in the NFC East, I think on paper, once again, the Dallas Cowboys should win the NFC East, and that pains me as somebody from the New York area to say. They should win the NFC East, but again, I'm going to make a wild prediction. I think once again, the Cowboys will underachieve. That's not to say that they won't make the playoffs. That's not even to say they won't win the division, but I just think record-wise and where they're going to be at by December will not be what a lot of Cowboy fans expect, unfortunately for them. Washington football team, I do not want to count them out. Ron Rivera did a phenomenal job while battling cancer last year with multiple freaking quarterbacks leading the Washington football team to the playoffs, to a division title. He deserves a lot of props, a lot of respect. But, last time I checked, the Washington football team still had a pretty awful vaccination rate. Last time I checked, Ron Rivera is very immunocompromised as a cancer survivor, cancer fighter. So I do predict that, well, that could cause some complications. I think that will cause some complications really throughout the league, but in particular with the lowest vaccinated teams, such as the Washington football team, who should on paper be competitive, and the Minnesota Vikings, who again should also be competitive, but time will tell. I think Aaron Rodgers' revenge tour with the Green Bay Packers will continue. Whether or not it's his final season with the Packers remains to be seen. But I think at the very least, the Packers will be a playoff team. And individually, Aaron Rodgers will have another great season. Can he win the MVP again? That might be a tough task for him at his age and with all the competition around him. But I think he'll definitely still be the Aaron Rodgers of, I don't want to say old, but the Aaron Rodgers of current. I think the New York Jets will be competitive. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. I'm not completely sold on Zach Wilson yet. I mean, I'm not completely sold on any real rookie yet until we actually see them in real games. But I think Robert Saleh will do a good enough job with the Jets for them to be competitive and finish with a respectable record. I got my Lebanese brother in New York, well, technically New Jersey, doing his thing. Robert Saleh has been a highly regarded assistant for a long time. Finally gets a shot. I'm wishing him the best. And yeah, I think that the Jets could do pretty well. Broncos. This might surprise some people. And maybe I just continue to have an unwavering faith of Teddy Bridgewater despite his rough stint with Carolina and his injury woes. But I think that Teddy Bridgewater will lead the Denver Broncos to at least a 500 record and at least in contention for one of the wild card spots. Now, that being said, the fact that Teddy Bridgewater as of press time is starting is absolutely insane. Not insane in the sense that he's not the best choice. He is the best choice, I think, compared to Drew Lock right now. What's insane is that the Denver Broncos had a chance to draft a quarterback, had a chance to get somebody to provide them a fresh start. No disrespect to Drew Lock, but he has been rough. He seems like a nice kid. He made a huge mistake last year with not wearing his mask, and that whole debacle where they had to start a wide receiver from the practice squad, in one of those games and everything. I think it was against Kendall Hinton, had to step up. I do think Drew Lock, based on what I've seen in media interviews, him outside the locker room and everything else, seems like a nice kid. He seems like somebody that you would want to play with as far as just like a genuine dude. Okay, I don't know him personally, but he seems pretty relatable and he is very blunt and very honest with where he's at. Here's the thing. This isn't the nice football league. This is the National Football League. And at the end of the day, you got to start who can produce the best results. And comparatively, on paper, I think Teddy Bridgewater can do that. But I think if they were able to get a quarterback like, say, Justin Fields, I think the Broncos could be in good shape. So, yeah, Broncos take the major L in not drafting a quarterback, but I do think that they will have at least some success with Teddy Bridgewater, assuming everybody remains healthy. Because on paper, that team has got some talent. Obviously, they still got a little guy by the name of Von Miller, but they got Noah Fant. They got a deep running game. They've got some talented wide receivers. Cortland Sutton, you name it. They got some great individual talent on the team, some great fantasy talent for anybody that's drafting for their fantasy team. So we shall see, but I think they'll be better than people expect. And as far as I don't want to say a hot take. I don't think it's a really hot take, but I'm going to give one anyway, even though I'm not really one for hot takes. But since this is called the Wild Predictions and Hot Take Show before the NFL season really starts, I'm going to say I think Carson Wentz proves the Philadelphia Eagles right. I'm not saying he won't do pretty well under Frank Reich, but the dude has been injury prone. And I've defended Carson Wentz in the past because listen, man, sometimes in the NFL crap happens, okay? He doesn't ask to get freaking concussed by Jadeveon Clowney. Was it Jadeveon Clowney who concussed him in that game against the Seahawks a couple years back? It might have been Clowney. Whoever it was. The guy's just had a lot of bad luck, a lot of rough luck. He's also, to the best of my knowledge, unvaccinated. And that's something he can't control. So that to me shows, I'm sorry, hot take, lack of I don't think it's really a hot take, but for some it will be. A lack of leadership and a lack of self-awareness, and considering what he's probably put into his body, that's not FDA approved. It's a bad look. And between that and his general injury woes and the fact that his confidence has seemed pretty shaken over the last couple of years, you know what? I think that Carson Wentz is going to prove the Philadelphia Eagles right. Now, luckily for him, luckily for the Colts, luckily for Frank Reich, they play in a division that is extremely winnable. The Titans, I think this is a make or break year for them. Derrick Henry is obviously the king. Ryan Tannehill is still a stud on a career renaissance, but they got to take that next step. This is year 3, baby. This is year 3 this time, and the second straight year with expectations. I think they got to step up. Jaguars, I don't really expect much from them. I think if they had a better head coach, hell, I think if even Doug Marrone was still coaching that freaking team, they would have a better shot. But Urban Meyer, never mind the shadiness, never mind hiring the racist, never mind all of his problems and everything else. I really do think that Urban Meyer is just not cut out for the NFL. Not now, anyway. And he's shown when the going gets tough, he tends to quit on his team. So, not an Urban Meyer fan at all as a human being. I think when you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, and look, much respect to Tony Khan and what he's doing at AEW, and I like how he does business with AEW, and I know it's not all him with the Jaguars, but I generally think, like, we've had so many NFLPA complaints the last 2 years, and you hire a guy who within the first few weeks of a job tried to get a racist on your staff, and had a racist on your staff, who was fired for racism like months back. Just a bad look, and you can make the argument he might have already lost part of the locker room by then, between that and the Tebow debacle and everything else. It's just, I don't know. And then you draft Travis Etienne, and I really like Travis Etienne, and I feel really bad that he got hurt and is out for a season. God bless that guy. I think he can be a very good pro, but it made no sense when you had J-Rob there. Yeah, I'd say with any other NFL level head coach, the Jaguars would at least be somewhat competitive in that division. And who knows? They're still talented. They still have some individual talent. They might be. But I think they're still going to be the worst team in that division. So the Colts can win the AFC South. I think it is very doable. It's very doable. But I think right now it is the Titans to lose. GT500 on the live stream says the GOAT Tom Brady will win his 8th Super Bowl. And no team and no players really matter. Look, man, as somebody who covers the Bucs, I will say that Tom Brady is the GOAT. I don't care if he deflated footballs. I don't care if he saw hidden camera footage. I don't care if you pumped him up with certain vitamins or minerals or whatever. I don't care if he took a bath in the Fountain of Youth. I don't care if he stole Kurt Warner's homework in 2001. I don't care if there's a tuck rule. The dude is 44 years old and playing like that. He is a modern, I don't know if medical miracle is the right word. He is like living proof of what great nutrition, obviously a lot of money, but great nutrition combined with a lot of money can do for you. And obviously dedication. Because there's a lot of people who are 44 who are also filthy rich, who are athletes, that can't. And look, you need some luck too. You need to be, you need to be protected by your offensive line. You need a good running game, good receivers around you. You can't all do it alone. But man, much respect to Tom Brady. I honestly, here's my thing. I think that the Chiefs and the Bucs can go back to the Super Bowl. I really do, because both of them have up to Bucs are 100% vaccinated. Chiefs are near 100%, according to Andy Reid. And you don't want to be the teammate that gets Tom Brady sick. You don't want to be the teammate that gets Patrick Mahomes sick. So I think given the discipline that they've shown, I think that both teams have a very good chance, barring injury, obviously, and illness, of returning to the Super Bowl. Whether the result will be different or not, we shall see. As for Andy Reid, obviously, he's got some personal issues on the side. His son, Britt Reid, damn near killed the little girl, drunk driving. Why it took so long to arrest Britt Reid, why it took so long for him to be charged, I don't know. I mean, maybe I do know. He's the son of Andy Reid. But, I don't want to hold anything against Andy or anything like that. It's just an unfortunate situation. And, being a parent is so tough. And, he already lost one son. So it's just a really sad story. But, in the case of just isolating Britt Reid himself, nothing to do with his dad, I hope that guy goes to prison for a long time. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because some people in the chat are saying, well, what about Britt Reid? Could Britt Reid goes to prison or the trial or whatever, if that causes Andy Reid to take at least a brief leave of absence? What happens? Look, you got Eric Bieniemy. Andy Reid has already endorsed them like crazy. Eric Bieniemy should have been a head coach years ago. And I think if, in the event Andy Reid unfortunately has to take a leave, I don't think the Chiefs will miss a beat, because Andy Reid has put together a phenomenal staff, again, starting with Eric Bieniemy, and ultimately I think the Chiefs will be all right. But obviously just a tragic situation. But F Britt Reid. Okay, what do you think about somebody's asking me here. What do you think about the Houston Texans? Oh, okay. Texans, I think they're going to be terrible. I feel bad for that, for the players, they got signed there, because on one hand they get an NFL opportunity, on the other hand it is such a mess. And I'm not going to get into any conspiracy theories about this and that and the other thing, what the Texans knew, what they didn't know with Deshaun Watson. Here's the thing: every NFL team has the resources and is probably aware of some really terrible, crappy, bad, questionable allegations or background of every player. And if they say they weren't aware, they're just pleading ignorance. That being said, even if the Texans were aware of some allegations against Deshaun Watson and opted to give him a contract anyway a couple years back when they gave him that huge deal. Maybe I'm naive here. I find it hard to believe that they knew the extent of these allegations and the fact that it would result in a criminal investigation. I find that very hard to believe. I think even the Houston Texans would say, you know what? We're going to hold off on giving this guy a huge contract if they were aware of this. So I don't think there's any real conspiracy here. I think the timing obviously was fishy at the start. But listen, man, when you get up to 22 allegations, something's up. That's just the reality. Something's up. And so I'm glad that the Texans are starting Tyrod Taylor. I really think the NFL should just step in already. Even if by some chance you think Deshaun Watson is completely framed, which based on all this evidence, I just find that hard to believe, but whatever, okay? Even if that's the case, no matter what side you fall on, why is this guy playing? Put him on the commissioner's exempt list, do all this you have to do your due diligence, and you know what? If he somehow, some way clears his name or settles or gets punished, whatever the case may be, then you bring him back. But just having him technically active, and I don't know if he's technically active now, but because he's not starting, but just having him around the facility and everything else it's too radioactive. Whether you think he brought it on himself or you think this is a crazy act of revenge, whatever the case may be, okay, you have a football team and your goal is to win games. So I think they should ice him. I think the NFL should ice him, and we'll see what happens from there. I can't really comment further from that. I think we'll see what happens. I think somebody here says Jalen Hurts will have a better season than Tom Brady. Look, man, I don't know about that. I really like Jalen Hurts though, but I don't know about that. On paper, most quarterbacks the age of Jalen Hurts who are talented should have a better season than Tom Brady, who's 44 years old. But it's Tom Brady. It's not. Oh, I'm saying that he is better than him. Okay, yeah, I can't go that far. And I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan. I can't go that far. I mean, this season. Overall, you're not saying overall. You're saying this season. Look, time will tell. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like. I think you got a great Tom Brady on a curve, though. Even if he doesn't match the season he had last year, the fact that Tom Brady's still playing at a high level at 44 is amazing. He doesn't have to throw 40 touchdowns. He doesn't have to throw 50 touchdowns. He doesn't have to even throw 30 touchdowns. I mean, maybe he should, but considering their passing game's stronger than their run game. But I'm just saying, you got to grade this guy. Whether you grade him on a curve or not, what Tom Brady's done has been amazing. And if you want to grade him on a curve because maybe he'll take a step back, he's still 44 years old playing. At this point, the man is playing with house money. And if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what an investment you made, right? You throw the kitchen sink at this guy, you throw everything at him to get him to Tampa Bay, and in year one, he not only takes you to the playoffs for the first time in 14 years, but he gets you to the freaking Super Bowl, and he wins the Super Bowl. That's a pretty incredible. I think now the Bucs organization, they're playing with house money. So I think they'll do pretty well. I think they'll make the playoffs. I know the NFC South is always very competitive, and there's a good shot that the Falcons, who are consistently inconsistent, could be competitive too. But actually, I'll tell you one interesting storyline I'd look out for if I was y'all. Jameis Winston with the New Orleans Saints against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You better believe Jameis definitely wants some revenge. I'm not personally the biggest Jameis fan, given all the off-the-field stuff, but there's no doubt that the man is extremely talented. He's got a lot of raw talent, okay? He's got a lot of raw talent. But can he harness that raw talent? Bruce Arians tried. A number of other coaches tried. They failed. And look, we're going to find out this year, what Sean Payton can do with a quarterback not named Drew Brees. And granted, we did find out a little bit when he was with Teddy Bridgewater, and a little bit with Taysom Hill. And I'd say the results were pretty good. Taysom Hill, clearly, I don't think he's based on what we've seen, you can't conclude the guy is a starting caliber NFL quarterback. The morbid curiosity in me would like to see Taysom Hill start a full season, though, because he is super talented. But is he super talented enough to be a full-time quarterback? The dude's 30 years old? If that were the case, he would probably already started. So I think Sean Payne knows something we don't know, which is it's better to have Jameis Winston starting with Taysom Hill as the Swiss Army knife rather than the other way around. So we'll see. But again, a lot can happen. I think the Saints will still be competitive, but again, the turnover battle. Can Jameis Winston take care of those turnovers? He's always had the talent. If you look at his numbers, actually, as a starter, his first few years in the league, I mean, they're super impressive, minus the turnovers. But again, when you take into consideration the turnovers, all the stuff off the field, it's it's going to be interesting. I don't want to say this is a make or break for the guy, because I think he could have a solid career as a backup, even if it doesn't work out for him as a starter. But I'd say make or break for him in terms of being a starter in this football league for the foreseeable future. Yeah, I think this could make or break him. But again, his raw talent is still better than a lot of quarterbacks around the league too. So we shall see. We shall see with that. What do you think about the Panthers with Sam Darnold? Well, look, I feel bad for what Sam Darnold went through with the Jets, because I don't totally think he got a fair shake. He's got a fresh start in Carolina. He could do a little bit better, especially with Robbie Anderson there. But, he's what, though? On paper, he's what, though? The fourth best quarterback in that division still. So you're asking him to make a big leap there. On top of that, to the best of my knowledge, he also didn't commit to getting the vaccine. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I also wasn't impressed with the Matt Rule signing when the Panthers got him. I know he had a great college career, but to throw that much money at an unproven coach when there are so many, not just qualified minority candidates out there. I mean, there are a ton that the Panthers could have signed instead. But just talented assistants in general. Again, I bring up Brian Daboll. It's insane that this guy won Coordinator of the Year and did not get a head coaching opportunity. And some people will say, oh, maybe he wants to stay with the Bills. Listen, man, we don't know what goes on with these guys. And more often than not, based on people I've talked to, when a coordinator has a chance to become a head coach, far often do they turn that down. I think the only guy that really has prominently turned down a head coaching position in the league, like as far as like multiple times, would probably be like Josh McDaniels. And even that guy, for some strange reason, is still getting offers and getting looked at, even though he's burned multiple teams. And he also burned down the freaking Denver Broncos for a while when he was their head coach too. So yeah, I'm very perplexed by that. But hey, good for Matt Rule. He got his money. But again, the division can be pretty competitive. Who do you think is going to win the NFC West? Oh, that is a great one. I'll say this. I think if the Rams can remotely replicate their defensive efforts of last season with Raheem Morris as a fantastic coordinator, who, by the way, should have gotten a shot to be the Atlanta Falcons head coach, which is absolute BS. But I think if the Rams can stay a dominant defense, and if Matthew Stafford can make less mistakes than Jared Goff and just overall display a higher football IQ than Jared Goff, which he has throughout his career, I think the Rams could at least get to the championship game. I really do. I think they're that talented. But, look, while Stafford was in the Lions' purgatory, while on paper he should be a significant upgrade from Jared Goff, the reality is he hasn't won anything. I know it's unfair to him in some cases, because if you put Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders, all these great players from the past and present for the Lions and other teams, they probably would have won something. But we got to judge them based on reality. And the reality is they haven't even won a freaking playoff game. So I don't want to go too crazy just yet, but I do think on paper the Rams should at least be competitive. Do you think the Philadelphia Eagles will make the playoffs? Yeah, I do. I actually think they will make the playoffs. But it's going to be tough. I think one team that could sneak in there will be the Chicago Bears. That's another. Actually, you know what? That's another wild prediction I'll give you guys. Very high on Justin Fields. Like Jalen Hurts, and like a lot of black quarterbacks before him, he heard all the coded language, all the BS about his leadership and toughness, and maybe you could change positions or this and that. And I'm so tired of it. And I appreciate you guys for supporting me, because I'm always going to call out that bullshit, because that's what it is when people use that coded language and those dog whistles with black quarterbacks. But anyway, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. Whether Andy Dalton starts the first half of the season or not, I think at some point, Nagy and the whole team are going to realize, you know what? We got to save our asses here. We got to save our jobs. And I think they're going to start Justin Fields at some point. And I think as long as they start Justin Fields within a reasonable time, that team can win enough games to go to the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying they'll win the division or anything like that. I mean, that's Aaron Rodgers' division to lose in the AFC North. But can they sneak in at number 7 like they did last year? Yeah, I think they can. But Eagles, yeah, absolutely. I think the Eagles could definitely be an on-the-bubble team. I don't know if they'll win the division. But again, a lot of years, going back to the Tony Romo years, we've said, man, these Cowboys are competitive. These Cowboys can be great. And as much as I hate the Cowboys, it's true. On paper, they've had some incredibly talented teams, some incredibly big-name stars. And I think Dak Prescott is an absolute stud. I don't agree with his vaccination status, allegedly. But he's a stud, without a doubt. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But as we've seen with Dak in the past, as we saw with Tony Romo in the past, you can be a hell of a quarterback. You can put up some great numbers, but the rest of the team's got to deliver, and you also got to deliver when it matters most. So, I don't know. I still don't trust the Cowboys in December. I think they can still make the playoffs and win the division, but Eagles, you're not asking about division, you're asking about a playoff spot. I think they can make the playoffs. I really do. I really do. Do you think Kyler Murray can make the leap? I mean, yeah, why not? He played pretty well last season. I know the Cardinals faded down the stretch, but honestly, with the Cardinals, I kind of look at it like the Eagles, and with like some of these other teams that just hire these boy wonders and ignore all the great assistants that have been cutting their teeth for a long time. My issue isn't with really the Cardinals themselves, like the players. I mean, there are some issues here and there. My issue's with the coach. Can the coach step up? He's made some pretty bonehead decisions. I believe he came from the Sean McVay school of bros. So we shall see. And we'll take one more here. Which team do you think misses the playoffs? That'll surprise a lot of people. Ooh, that's a great question. You know what? I am going to go, I don't know if it's really going to be a surprise, but I'm going to go with the New England Patriots. I'm not saying Mac Jones will be bad, but I do think that division will be competitive enough where the Patriots could miss the playoffs, and I'm still not totally impressed by the personnel around Mac Jones. Mac Jones might be good himself, but the personnel around him, maybe not so much. Also, Stephon Gilmore out for half the season. And you know what? I'm gonna throw out a wild prediction. I kind of hope it's not true. Honestly, I genuinely hope it's not true. But just based on some of the tea leaves I'm seeing and what some people who know a lot more about NFL are talking about, I think that the Miami Dolphins will at least consider trading Tua. Now, whether or not they trade him for Deshaun Watson, which I think right now, present day, is a terrible move, whether or not they try to trade him for Aaron Rodgers, which actually I think would be a great move on their part, or a package that can get Aaron Rodgers. But I think they'll trade Tua. I feel bad for saying that because I like Tua, and he's gone through a lot these last couple of seasons, especially with his injury woes and everything else, and I think he deserves a fair shake. And not every quarterback can get Josh Rosen and have it work out for that team that gets rid of him. It worked out for the Cardinals. We got Kyler Murray immediately after Josh Rosen. But I think that they should give Tua one more shot, especially because of all the tanking and all the misery that all these Dolphins fans had to go through for all these years. They finally get a big-name quarterback after Dan Marino, and you got to trade him already? I'll say this. If they have an opportunity to get Aaron Rodgers, I don't think the opportunity exists during the season, maybe after the season, depending on how things shake out, fine. If you can get an Aaron Rodgers type of guy, and those guys don't really exist, other than like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, I say trade Tua. But if you're going to trade Tua for Deshaun Watson, given everything we know about him now, I think it's a terrible move. But I think that's my wild prediction. I think that the Dolphins will at least explore and get close to pulling the trigger on a trade for Tua. So we'll see what happens there, folks. But I want to hear from you. What do you think about some of my wild predictions and assessments, some of my hot takes? What do you think about some of the listeners' and viewers' hot takes? Let me know. Leave a comment below if you have a hot take of your own. Please, I would love to hear it. You never know, man. Listen, this could be like the NBA season where it's not just the survival of the best, but it's the survival of the healthiest. And unsickest. We'll see what happens. But until next time, everybody, as always, enjoy the games and please stay safe. Man, gonna be an excellent freaking season. I hope.